morning. Good to have you with us here on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. The world wakes up this morning asking the question, what's next? ISIS is now threatening to hit the United States right at its heart in Washington, D.C. How do we take the threat? It has been a horrific weekend to watch this carnage unfold in front of the world's eyes. And at the G8 summit, or the G20 summit, which is taking place in Turkey, it is, of course, the focal point of conversation. The president responding to what happened on Friday night.
The skies have been darkened by the horrific attacks that took place in Paris, as was true with the terrible attacks that took place in Ankara. The killing of innocent people based on a twisted ideology is an attack not just on France, not just on Turkey, but it's an attack on the civilized world.
And of course, that is the big question. What do we do next? The ominous backdrop to all of this is a comment that President Obama made just previous to the Paris attack on Friday night.
I don't think they're gaining strength. What is true is that from the start, our goal has been first to contain, and we have contained them. They have not gained ground in Iraq, and in Syria, they'll come in, they'll leave, but you don't see the systematic march by ISIL across the terrain.
It's not about territory at this point. It's about targets. And the targets are now global. So what do? This is going to break out a big conversation in the United States. Number one, our strategy, what is it? Number two, how many resources do we put forth? Will this engage the entire globe to fight these jihadists? And also, how do you end it? How do you win it? How do you do this? No one really has good answers, but the fearmongers are out and about. This is Senator Richard Burr of North Carolina on the Senate Intelligence Committee.
We've got to have a strategy. We don't have a strategy in Syria as it relates to ISIL. The president talked the other morning about ISIL was contained. America learned within 24 hours it's not contained. It's rampant everywhere in the world that they intend to carry out these horrific acts. It just so happens the United States is a target, but Paris was easier. And if we don't get a strategy, tactics don't make a strategy. So these pinpricks that we've had as far as a tactical effort in Syria really is not a strategy.
Well, it seems to me that a strategy is going to be needed globally. And what is the silver lining here, if there is one, with all this carnage laying in front of the folks across this globe? Well, the Civil War was started after Fort Sumter was fired on. It motivated people. We, of course, as a country, were motivated after being hit by Pearl Harbor. We, of course, as a country, were motivated to do something after being hit on 9/11. Whether the response was correct or not is always going to be debated. And that, of course, was a focal point of the debate on Saturday night in Des Moines, Iowa, with the Democrats. So this conversation is going to go on for generations. Is this the wake-up call for the French? Will they be in it for the long haul? Will other countries come on board? What is the economic impact to all of this? And, of course, there's no better place to talk about it than at the G20 summit. And that's exactly where President Obama and Vladimir Putin gathered for some quick diplomacy. The Russians could be our best friends in all of this. The big division is that they want to prop up Assad. We do not. But the fact is they're a target. We're a target. So what do? It is going to take leadership at a global level like we've never seen before. Well, at home, we must be protected, and the fearmongers are out and about. Just listen to Senator Lindsey Graham.
There is a 9/11 coming, and it's coming from Syria if we don't disrupt their operations inside of Syria. I'm trying to protect America from another 9/11, and without American boots on the ground in Syria and Iraq, we're going to get here at home. And if you don't understand that, you're not ready to be commander-in-chief, in my view.
Joining us now on Ed Schultz News and Commentary is Dean Obeidallah. He is a columnist for the Daily Beast and also a radio host on Sirius XM of the Dean Obeidallah Show. Dean, good to have you back with us.
Great to be on, Ed. Nice to chat with you again.
We can't put into words the carnage that unfolded on Friday night, but of course the political football has already started to be kicked back and forth on how we identify it. I want your take on this, your unvarnished feeling on exactly how this should be viewed by everyone.
Well, it's a horrific terrorist attack. I mean, it was something that I don't think anyone could have expected, and it's sort of the worst nightmares come true that civilians were slaughtered by crazed terrorists while doing nothing but enjoying their lives at a restaurant, at a sporting match, at a movie theater. And from my point of view, of course, being Muslim, it's even worse because not only is there tragedy, but now we have more people seeing Islam defined through the lens of what ISIS wants to define it as. ISIS has a political agenda, and their goal is to create a war, a religious war between the West and Islam. That's their dream. And this, unfortunately, in the minds of some, will take us closer to that, because some will view all Muslims as bad, or as at least a threat, and that we need to kill or detain or surveil at least all Muslims, including Muslim Americans, simply because of their faith. And that's the narrative ISIS wants. It really must be, it's not Islam versus the West, it's all of us versus ISIS. And that's the way it must be. It has to be. The number one victim of ISIS are Muslims. I've written about it for the Daily Beast numerous times. I have a new article up today about that very thing, talking about, through the UN and State Department reports, overwhelmingly the victims of ISIS are Muslims. They behead Muslims. They behead those who don't agree with ISIS. They've killed Sunni imams, Shia imams. They don't care. The victims in Paris, now we're hearing the names, and numerous ones are Arabs and Muslims. They do not care. ISIS is not about Islam. It truly is about an agenda.
Well, the conservatives in this country, especially the politicians, are quick to label them as radical Islamic terrorists. Mm-hmm. And they get infuriated with Democrats when that term isn't used. Your reaction to that?
I mean, the idea of, I hate to get into the word fight because I think it distracts us from the reality of this. Yeah. What President Obama is saying, we're not going to call it radical Islam, was for a real reason. And I talked to Ben Rhodes about it, the Deputy National Security Advisor. It's to be accurate. That's what they're being. That's all they want to be, is accurate in this fight. And that, because radical Islam gives a sense that ISIS really are some strain of Islam, just like there'd be different strains of Christianity. It'd been Protestants, Episcopalians. Oh, and there's a strain of radical Islam. It's not. ISIS has its own interpretation of not just Islam. It's actually a sheer fabrication, which is the way numerous religious scholars and imams I've spoken to about it. And the greatest point I can give to people is that if ISIS is really following some true Islam, then why are they fighting Al-Qaeda? Why are they killing each other? They're literally beheading each other on the killing fields of Syria. If they were both about some true Islam, some radical Islam, they'd be in cahoots with each other. Instead, they're at odds because it's a political agenda.
So
ISIS uses religion.
Why isn't the Muslim world totally unified to defeat ISIS?
Why are they, or why are they? Or
why are they not totally unified and resourcing it to the max to defeat ISIS? I think that's one of the big frustrations of folks in our country. Your thoughts?
I agree, and I think that this might be more of a wake-up call. In the Muslim world, there have been numerous Arab nations, Muslim nations, in the coalition bombing. Obviously, Jordan's pilot was burned to death on TV thanks to ISIS and their barbaric actions for bombing targets of ISIS. So we've seen Jordan, you've seen the Gulf states involved, you've seen Saudi involved. Can they step it up? Do they want to commit boots on the ground to fight ISIS? Yes, I wish they would do that. There's nothing I can do about internally their politics and why they're not. It's the reality is, I just spoke to an ambassador just last week before this attack, who's from the Middle East, who spoke about this exact issue, why some Arab countries and the country she represents is stepped up, but why others aren't. And also the idea that some in Qatar, some in Saudi are still funding ISIS. Not the governments, don't get me wrong, but they're still giving money to ISIS to support ISIS. And that those allies, those countries of ours that are allies, must crack down on their own citizens who are supporting ISIS. The same way they crack down on people who dissent against government policies, which is wrong, but that's what they do. Well, then they should be able to stop these people in their own country from giving money to ISIS the same way. And again, it's not the governments of Qatar. They're not complicit with it, or Saudi, at least not from this person's point of view. But they have the wherewithal to at least crack down on some of this and make it clear that our citizens cannot be supporting ISIS.
Dean, if this isn't a wake-up call, what's it going to take? I mean, obviously, we responded after 9/11. We responded after Pearl Harbor. I mean, there are historical markers that have taken place through time where countries do completely change attitudes and move forward to get something done. Are we at that point right now?
I think within the United States, yes. I'm hoping within the Muslim world you see more animation for them to engage in it. From the point of view of Arab and Muslim leaders, they'll say we're completely engaged. We're giving fighter jets. We're bombing. They have not committed troops on the ground in large numbers, and that would be the next visible step. And that would, I think, make a clear indication to Americans in the world that ISIS is something we agree mutually is a scourge and must be eliminated. I hope that they do commit a huge number of troops on the ground and really fight ISIS there. ISIS is not just in Syria and Iraq anymore. People have to also remember this. It's spread now, little pockets of it. I mean, you have some in Libya, but you have small pockets around the world, little cells. Those are much harder to fight. Those are going to have to be not boots on the ground. That's going to be intelligence gathering within each country and cracking it down. But the actual troop base, Syria and Iraq and Libya as well, that can be combated with troops on the ground.
Okay.